somewhere in a Scottish charter written more than 900 years ago, before there was a fixed Scotland the way we picture it.
Before most of Europe carried surnames at all, a scribe dipped his pen and wrote down a name. Not a story, not a legend, a name.
And here's the part almost nobody tells you. Some of those names never died. They didn't fade into Latin. They didn't get swallowed by conquest. They came down through 9 centuries of feud, plague, and rebellion, and landed on people alive right now, on a passport, on a mailbox, maybe on yours. In this video, we're counting down the 10 oldest Scottish clan bloodlines still in use today, ranked by the earliest surviving. Appearance of the name in Scotland itself. English records don't count. French records don't count. The name has to be written down on Scottish soil, and it has to still be worn by a recognized clan today. And I'll tell you now, the name at number 1 has a claim no other Scottish surname can match, an unbroken paper trail of roughly 900 years, and a bloodline geneticists have actually traced in living men. Stick around, because if your name is on this list, your ancestor was standing in a room with a king before your family could read the charter he signed. Let me know your clan surname in the comments. Mine's Macmillan. Let's count down. One caveat before we start. Surnames in Scotland were still forming in the 1100s, so these weren't always fixed hereditary names yet. What we're really ranking is the earliest recognizable form of a name that later became a Scottish clan. And you'll be amazed how recognizable they already were. Number 10. Gordon. Richard de Gordon, mid-11th century. We open with a name that sounds thunderously Scottish today. Gordon. Highland regiments, a ducal house, a tartan you'd know on sight. But wind the clock back, and the first man to carry it in Scotland was Richard de Gordon, who appears holding lands at Gordon in Berwickshire in the middle decades of the 12th century. The name is territorial. It comes from that place in the borders, most likely from Old English or Brittonic elements, describing a spacious hill fort or great fort. So the very first Gordons were named after the ground they held, not the other way round. From that quiet Berwickshire beginning, the family exploded northward, becoming the mighty Cock of the North, the Gordon Earls and Dukes who dominated the northeast of Scotland for centuries. Admitted, documented. If your name is Gordon, your bloodline was already rooted in Scottish soil 850 years ago, and the next name on the list was pouring wine for the king himself. Number 9. Hay William de Hire, Royal Cupbearer, circa 1160s. Number 9 is Hay, and the first Hay in Scotland didn't arrive as a warlord. He arrived at the king's own table. William de Hire served as Pincerna, the royal cupbearer, to King Malcolm IV around the 1160s, and was granted the lands of Errol in the Carse of Gowrie. The name comes from the Norman French la haie, a hedge or an enclosure. Ordinary enough, but the Highs turned a hedge into a legend. Tradition holds that at the Battle of Luncarty, a Hay plowman and his sons rallied fleeing Scots with nothing but their ox yokes and turned a rout into a victory. Which is why the clan crest to this day is a falcon, and the motto is about keeping the yoke. Documented or not, the Hays became Errol's Earls and Scotland's hereditary Lord High Constables. If your name is Hay, your ancestors' hands were trusted with the King's Cup, and treason was the one thing they were sworn to stop. The next name spent the next 500 years turning the Highlands upside down. Number 8. Fraser, Simon Fraser, circa 1160s. Number 8. Fraser. To most people, that name means the Highlands Lovat, the 45 Tartan and Rebellion. But the earliest Frasers surface in the lowlands in the 12th century, with men like Simon Fraser holding lands in the south before the family ever pushed north. Here's a twist you'll like. The name looks French, and the family later leaned into it, adopting fraise, strawberry flowers, onto their arms as a pun. But surname scholars think the strawberry story is a later flourish. The true origin is debated and probably continental. The strawberry link is heraldic tradition, not proven etymology. What isn't debated is what the Frasers became one of the great Highland clans. The Frasers of Lovat, whose chief led men out for the Jacobite cause and paid for it on the scaffold. If your name is Fraser, your bloodline crossed the whole map of Scotland, Lowland Charter to Highland battlefield, and survived both. Now the names get older, and the records get sharper. Number 7. Oliphant, David Oliphard, first witnessed 1144. At number 7, a name most people have never placed, Oliphant. Yet the first secure bearer in Scotland, David Oliphard, walks straight out of a royal rescue. Tradition says he saved King David I himself during the rout of Winchester in 1141. What's solid is that he appears witnessing. Scottish royal charters from 1144 spelt Olifart, Oliphant, Oliphant, and finally, Oliphant. The meaning is genuinely disputed. Some link it to the Old French olifant, an elephant, or an ivory war horn, the kind a knight would sound in battle. Others tie it to olive, the olive. Etymology debated. Picture it. Either way, your name is a horn of ivory raised on a battlefield, or the branch of peace. Not bad for a lesser-known clan. The historical line points to an Anglo-Norman family out of Northamptonshire, who came north with David and put down deep roots, Roxburghshire and Perthshire. And one of the last great Oliphants was Carolina Oliphant. Lady Nairn, the Jacobite songwriter, who quietly saved a huge chunk of Scotland's song tradition from being lost. If your name is Oliphant, your bloodline carried a king to safety, and then carried the nation's music. The next name ends in one of the cruelest deaths in Scottish history. Number 6. Ramsay Simundus de Ramesia, 1140. Number 6 is Ramsay, and its first true Scottish bearer, Simundus de Ramesia, witnessed a charter to the monks of Holyrood in 1140. He came north as an Anglo-Norman in the age of King David I, and the family planted itself at Dalhousie, rising into the lowland nobility with the chief as Earl of Dalhousie. The name comes from Ramsay in Old Huntingdonshire, from Old English Hramsa, wild garlic, and e.g. island. Wild Garlic Island, a soft, green, almost peaceful name. And then there's what happened to Sir Alexander Ramsay. In 1342, he stormed and captured Roxburgh Castle from the English, a stunning feat, and King David II rewarded him with high office in the borders. But that reward enraged Sir William Douglas, who seized Ramsay and left him to starve to death in the pit of Hermitage Castle. Documented. If your name is Ramsay, your bloodline took a castle by storm, and learned that, in medieval Scotland, the deadliest enemy wasn't always the English. The next family didn't just serve kings. For a while, they nearly were the kingdom. Number 5. Cumming/Comyn, William Comyn. We make in Scotland by the 1130s. Number 5, and this one was, for a time, the most powerful name in Scotland, Comyn, better known in its medieval form, Comyn, the first major bearer. William Comyn had risen to Chancellor of Scotland under King David I by the mid-1130s. The great dynasty proper is safest traced from his nephew, Richard Comyn, clearly on record from 1144, but the name was already at the heart of the royal court in the 1130s. The origin is contested. Older clan tradition links it to Comyn, near Lille, on the French-Belgian border. Others point to a Norman commune, many modern. Scholars derive it from the Breton personal name Cumy, carried in through the Norman Breton world. However you cut it, the Comyns rose like a rocket. By the 13th century, they were arguably the most powerful family in Scotland, bound to the Balliol claim on the throne, until it all shattered in 1306, when Robert Bruce killed John the Red Comyn on the altar steps of a Dumfries church. Documented. If your name is Cumming, your bloodline once stood one dagger stroke from ruling Scotland outright, and the man who held that dagger, his name is at number 3. Number 4. Graham, William de Graham, 1128. Number 4 is Graham, and here the records get genuinely early. William de Graham, an Anglo-Norman knight, witnessed the foundation charter of Holyrood Abbey in 1128. That's not a saga retold centuries later. That's his name on a founding document. 900 years ago. The name is territorial, from Grantham in Lincolnshire, from Old English roots meaning something like gravelly homestead. Humble dirt for a name that became fire. Because the Grahams embedded themselves in Scotland and produced warrior after warrior, including Sir John de Graham, remembered as one of William Wallace's closest companions, who fell at Falkirk. Documented. Later Graham's Montrose, Bonnie Dundee would ride straight into legend. If your name is Graham, your bloodline stood at Wallace's shoulder while the fight for Scottish freedom was still being decided. The top three are royalty, ethnicity, and endurance. Here we go. Number 3. Bruce. Robert de Bruce, 1124 to 1129. At number 3, Bruce. The first key Scottish bearer, Robert de Bruce, was already established in northern England before he became one of David I's chief followers and received the lordship of Annandale, with the charter evidence usually placed around 1124 to 1129. The name almost certainly comes from Blix in Normandy. A Flemish origin is sometimes floated, but Brix/Normandy is the strongest reading. So, the Bruces began as Norman aristocrats who became Scottish the hard way, through land, loyalty, and blood. And from that single Annandale line came Robert the Bruce, King of Scots, victor of Bannockburn, the man who took the crown the Commons had reached for. Documented. That makes Bruce not merely a clan, but one of Scotland's great royal houses. If your name is Bruce, the blood of a king who won a nation's independence may run in your veins. And that is not a figure of speech. Which brings us to the secret at number 1. But first, the strangest name on the list. Number 2. Scott Uchtred Filius Scott, circa 1120. Number 2 is a name that is the nation Scot. The earliest bearer, Uchtred Filius Scott, appears in records placed around 1120. We know little about Uchtred the man, but his first name is Northumbrian Old English, pointing to a borders or northern setting, while Filius Scott meant quite literally son of a Scot. Here's the caveat, and it's a beautiful one. Unlike Bruce or Graham, Scott may have started as an ethnic byname rather than a fixed surname in medieval Latin. Scotus often just meant a Gael. So, Uchtred Filius Scott may originally have meant Uchtred, son of the Scot. Your surname might literally be the word outsiders used for your entire people. Even with that caution, the name is instantly recognizable, and Clan Scott became one of the most feared riding families of the Borders Reivers, feuders, kingmakers, and through Sir Walter Scott, the name went on to shape the whole romantic image of Scotland the world carries today. Documented. If your name is Scott, you may carry the oldest identity of all, the name of the Scots themselves, and now the oldest, and the one with the secret. Number 1. Lindsay, Walter de Lindesir. Number 1. The oldest Scottish clan surname still in use today, Lindsay. The earliest known bearer. Walter de Lindesir appears in connection with the Inquisitio Davidis, the great inquiry into the lands of the Church of Glasgow. Older historians dated it to around 1120 to 1124. Modern scholarship places it closer to 1116. Documented. That makes Walter one of the earliest securely identifiable surname bearers in all of Scottish written history, full stop. The name is territorial. From Lindsay in Lincolnshire, the wetland of Lincoln, romantic tradition plays on Lind, the lime tree, and links the family to Flemish and Norman settlers of the De Ghent circle. From those beginnings, the Lindsays rose into one of Scotland's great houses, the Earls of Crawford. But here's why Lindsay takes the crown, and here's the secret I promised you. It isn't just the age, it's the continuity. From Walter de Lindesir in 1116 to a person named Lindsay reading this today. The name has survived in recognizable form for roughly 900 years, unbroken. No other Scottish surname has a cleaner claim on the earliest surviving records. And this is where it stops being about paper. Geneticists studying Scottish clans have shown that these medieval bloodlines are not just legal fictions, they're biological. The landmark case is Somerled, ancestor of Clan Donald, an Oxford-led study in 2005,
identified a distinctive Y chromosome signature carried by a huge number of his descendants alive today, tracing a single 12th century man into tens of thousands of living men. Documented see sources below. The lesson lands on every name in this list when a surname survives from the 1100s. It isn't only ink that came down the centuries, it's DNA. So, if your name is Lindsay or Scott, Bruce, Graham, Comyn, Ramsay, Oliphant, Fraser, Hay or Gordon, you are not just sharing a name with a man in a 900-year-old charter. On the evidence of both the records and the genetics, you may be the living end of the same unbroken thread. The scribe wrote the beginning. You're the part he never got to see. 10 names, 9 centuries, and every one of them still worn by living people, maybe by you. So drop your clan surname in the comments below. Tell me where your name comes down, from Borders Reaver, Highland Chief, Royal Cupbearer, or a king. I read them, and half the fun is watching people find their own bloodline on the list. And the honorable mentions that just missed the top 10, Sinclair, Berkeley, and the rest all secure in the Scottish records of the 12th century. All a whisker behind the 10 above. But some of Scotland's oldest names didn't come from Norman knights at all. They came from Viking longships. Want to know which Scottish clans carry Norse blood? Click here and I'll show you.